Hello and welcome to the Cultivating Calmness Podcast. I'm your host, 𝗘𝗽𝗵𝗺, and I told you that I would come back this week and talk to you about the conference that I attended this past weekend, the Seeking Whole Health Christian Holistic Health Conference that I attended, and I did, and I have a lot to share, and I don't even know where to start. A lot of what I want to share with you isn't like specific details. I took a lot of notes, and I am slowly still digesting that. I have a lot of products. I got a lot of them for free, but I did pick up some of my own, but also just a lot of good resources. So a lot of what I picked up on and bringing back is foundational information, and I hope to just, share a tidbit of that with you today. So I want to jump right in and get started, and I invite you to join me. So I attended this Seeking Whole Health conference, and it was a 3-day conference. I attended 2 days, and they've already announced next year's, which will be in the middle of April. So I am hoping to attend that one as well. And they have some good speakers for next year. There's only one that I can remember off the top of my head, and I didn't write them down. So Dr. Sears will be one of the keynote speakers at next year's conference, and I'm looking forward to hearing him speak. I've heard him speak before. I've gotten to meet him before, so he's a great candidate to be able to talk to at a conference like that. But a lot of my takeaways from this conference, I would say, are more broad in nature, although I did come back with a lot of notes. And if you're watching, I have my notebook and my carry case, and I have a bunch of pages of notes that I've taken. And one of the things that one of the people who run the conference, what they kept saying was that when we go to conferences, and I'm a therapist and I've been to numerous therapy-like conferences, is that in the moment you're taking all this information in and you're like, yeah, and you leave wanting to do all the things. And that is true. I left this conference and I'm like, I want to do all the things. I want to change all the things. And I want to bring all this information back to myself, my family, my clients, my friends. And it's about like kind of hitting pause and being able to just practice digesting all of this information, because it is a lot of information to take in a short amount of time. So even though you're sitting around all day and you're listening to things, your brain is like working, and I'm writing things down. And so I still need to go back through my notes and look over everything. I was looking back through the program that they gave us, and I sat back and, I told you about all the things last week that I thought I would attend. And then I get there and I'm reading more of the descriptions about some of these things I thought I might attend. And in the moment, I did change my mind on a few of them. So I did attend some things I hadn't initially planned on attending, and then I didn't get to one or two that I thought I would, and that's just because of how scheduling worked out. And then in the back, there's all of the sponsors and many of the tables and things that were there. So that was also something that was recommended, is to hold on to these things, because there are sponsors in here. Those could be potential referral sources. Those could be resources for things that you may need in the future, but maybe you don't need right now in this moment. And I find that to be very true from luncheons that I host and programs that I've attended. They may not be something you need right now, but they may hold true in the future. So it's good to have those in your mind and to be able to reference them or know where to go back to find that information. And so conference packets are a good way to have that information. So don't just throw everything out. You also don't have to hold on to everything, but you may take notes and mark down what is important, and then be able to have those as a resource for the future. So I have this, and I attended a bunch of different breakout sessions on many different topics, and I keep saying the biggest thing. So when I talk, I write things down sometimes, but I also just kind of go off the cuff and have things that are in my head that I want to get out, but aren't always, I don't have a speech typed out. I don't have everything just worded perfectly, because I tend to kind of jump around in my head sometimes, and I think things are important and then I can go off in another direction. So bear with me as I try to come back to what I was saying. But a lot of the focus, or some of the focus that I took away, was to kind of go back to those roots. 𝗖𝗪𝗺, he's a farmer from Virginia. He was there. He talked on several occasions, and I think I went to 3 of his 4 talks. Maybe I went to all of them. I can't quite remember. And he gave a lot of background on how, like, his land came to be. So, like, that was information that I hadn't learned yet. I did purchase one of his books. He has like a ton of his own books. So I purchased the Folks This Ain't Normal book, and I did get a picture with him, and he did, sign my book for me. I love getting signed books from authors. So when I can purchase a book live and have a author sign them, I just love having that. It makes the books feel extra special when I'm able to do that. So this is a book that I have yet to read, but I'm going to. But he talked about a lot of this stuff. One of his talks was Folks This Ain't Normal, so kind of went through some of the things that I'm sure are in this book, but just showing us how, like, farming and agriculture and our food are today versus how they used to be 50 years ago. I think he said they got their farm in the 40s or 50s, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on the timeline there. So that's like 70-ish years ago. How his land has changed from the time they took over the land till now, to how farming has changed from like the 1900s and before. And he gave that perspective, and he talked about how things have changed and how our food has decreased in nutrients because of the way our land is farmed, and how we take care of our animals, and everything is connected. And this was a Christian-based conference. So, talking about how God intended our land to be and how God intended our animals to be was also part of this discussion, or this conference, and part of a lot of the things that were brought up, especially from 𝗖𝗪𝗺. And I think that was really helpful in just being able to picture and understand where we are today and where things have come and why things are really different today than they used to be. And I'm just going through some of my notes here, especially from 𝗖𝗪𝗺, and I'm trying to see if I can find some of the specific notes from him that were specifically, I thought really helpful. So some of the things in the book and some of his talks that I took away, he tried to list some things. And, when you have a short amount of time and so much information, he was just a wealth of knowledge. How we give our kids chores and we make our kids do or not do things, how that has changed in not only just the last couple decades, but especially over the last 100 years, because we went from a lot of families living on farms and taking care of their land and their animals and things, to that isn't part of our responsibility, and the things that we do as a family aren't the same anymore. What kind of responsibilities we're giving our offspring, and down the line. How sterile our culture is now compared to how they used to be. How our concentrated food systems are. So where we used to have cattle on land spread out, now everything is factory farming, and everything is condensed, and so they have to add antibiotics to their food, and they have to give them certain medications because they're so crammed in there with all of their manure that used to be part of the land, and that would be circulated and stamped into the land, which would cycle through and, you know, help our land and give nutrients to the soil that we would then grow food on, and that nutrients would get into our food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, having cheap grain and cheap food, and being ignorant about how, you know, where our food actually comes from and how far our food has to travel. You know, 100+ years ago, food would travel, what did he say? I don't know if I wrote it down. It was not very far, like less than 10 miles to like 50 years ago. It was like 40 miles to now it's thousands and thousands of miles that our food travels just to get to us. And how our food has been genetically modified or hybridized to make it so that it isn't damaged in that thousands of miles journey. Whereas, you know, it's going to be less nutrient dense over time because we are trying to swap out what it looks like for what it tastes like. Having food that is, you know, not where it's supposed to be, taking on, you know, a mentality of like blame and this is not our fault, and you know, not wanting to take responsibility for the land and the things that we do. So that was all like part of him. I learned a lot about infertility, and that's one of these books, Toxic Infertility. This was written by 𝗖𝗹𝗺𝗁𝗀𝗃, and I did get her to also sign this book because she was there and she did a presentation. And I got this book because, not specifically just for infertility, I don't work with a lot of people going through infertility, but there is a lot of helpful information in here just about our bodies, about detoxing, about our thyroid, about our hormones, and all of those things affect all of us, especially women. Our hormones are affected more greatly by stress than our male counterparts. And, you know, she talks about that in here and how you can heal those things naturally. And there was another doctor who also talked about fertility and hormones, and she's more of an integrative doctor, and she talked about some natural things, but also some bioidentical hormones that she would incorporate. Now, I am not as knowledgeable on how to incorporate those things and you know, what is and is not good about bioidentical hormones, although generally I've come from the perspective that they're probably less better for you than what's naturally occurring, although maybe they could be beneficial on a temporary basis potentially, but you just want to make sure you're getting testing. That's another thing, is that specific doctor, and I can't remember which one that is. I think that was Dr. Tabitha Barber, I think. Maybe that was her that spoke on that. I lost my train of thought again, but you know, she talked about, like our products as women, we have all kinds of things that are advertised to us. You know, rub this product on, it has, you know, estradiol in it, which is one of your hormones as women, and it'll help your saggy skin. And so she gave an example of someone who was using, she had tested this person, and you know, she was going to run this test again because the one hormone was like way off the charts, and couldn't understand why until she had said, oh yeah, I use this lotion 3 times a day that has, you know, X number of milligrams of estradiol. I think that was the hormone that was mentioned. I could be wrong. In it, and she had been unaware of that when she ran the test, and so it was causing her hormones to be way out of whack. It could have potentially set her down the wrong pathway because, you know, estrogen, if you have too much, in different ways can turn into or lead to a cancer diagnosis in the future because it's sending your hormones down the wrong pathways. So learned, you know, a lot about that. Learned a lot about, you know, thyroid health and, you know, anxiety. I'm a therapist, so we talk about anxiety a lot. And there was information even in talking about infertility. I learned more about the thyroid and gut health and things that I didn't know specifically about. It was like low stomach acid versus high stomach acid, how that relates to low iron. And, you know, I have a client right now specifically dealing with low iron and some of the struggles that they're going through. And so like this information I was taking in and specifically thinking about this client and how I want to bring this information up with them to maybe then they can take that back to their doctor or learn more themselves to figure out this issue that is going on. And so as a therapist, and I know it's probably the same for other providers, whether it's a chiropractor or a medical doctor or fill in the blank. I don't know about, you know, other providers out there if you're a provider and you're listening, but I know myself that just because I don't see you every day, just because, you know, you leave my office, doesn't mean I don't think about you, doesn't mean that I'm not saving information and taking information back specifically for you. And so that happens for me all the time, whether it's an Instagram reel or a book I'm reading. I will try to save a passage or save something to show that person later because it made me think of them, and something about that I thought was important for them to know. The same thing was happening at this conference, is being able to learn information, take it back to specific people that I'm thinking about today, but also being able to bring it back to them in the future. So I learned about toxic infertility, hidden triggers. I saw I went to the Hidden Triggers, Cracking the Code of Autoimmunity. That was by Dr. 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪 our the permeability about our intestines, and wheat and gluten reactivity, and how we don't always react to wheat and gluten specifically, but there are other triggers to wheat and gluten that trigger a gluten allergy that you may not know about. So that's gluten-associated cross reactions. I didn't know about that. Having multiple autoimmune reactivity, having food sensitivities. I am aware of food sensitivities. Chemical exposures, I am aware of that. That is something I often talk about. Pathogen associated exposures. So those would be like those parasites and overgrowth, and the word is not coming to me right now, but it will soon. Neurological autoimmune responses, hormonal, dysfunctions. Those are all parts of things that are hidden triggers that I, as a therapist, most therapists are not aware of and don't consider. But when I see somebody in front of me and they're talking about symptoms, these are things I want to be aware of, to bring back to them and say, hey, have you considered this? This might be a problem. Maybe you should look into that, because that could be affecting your mental health. That could be affecting the way that you're functioning and why you are not able to calm down your autonomic nervous system, that fight or flight response. And we want to get you into your parasympathetic nervous system. And that may be hard to do if you have all of these exposures that are causing chronic things to happen in your body that you just aren't aware of and nobody has talked to you about before. That's what I want to do with you. I want to bring these things to your attention so that you're aware of them and you can help yourself heal. Learned more about the, things that I already knew, but are good reminders, that parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, different herbs that are good for different things in your body, the difference between a nervine, a 𝗘𝗫𝗺𝗏 and a adaptogen. I learned about those. I learned what some of those differences are and how some of those things could be more beneficial than others, and what may be helpful for different kinds of sleep. Some things I grow in my yard, so I learned more about that, and I plan to use those things more. I don't know if you've ever been to a conference. Some will give you good big goodie bags, some will not. I got a nice big goodie bag, a Seeking Whole Health canvas bag here full of stuff. I have some of them here on the table, some of the things that were inside and some of the things I purchased on my own. There was this 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 supplement that was in the bag. There were 3 of them. Actually, 2 of them have been put away. I didn't grab them before I came to do this session. But actually they came in handy while I was at the conference. One was for inflammation and one was for immunity. And I started to get some cold-like symptoms while I was there. And it really helped to be able to take those. So I was glad to be able to have those in my bag. I used them. I think they were helpful. I did, I felt kind of miserable by the time that I left, just mostly with a massive headache. And I don't know what triggered it, other than all I can say is that maybe I got the, start of maybe a cold. I was able to use those as well as some vitamins that I brought with me, and I felt better by the next day. By Monday, mostly all gone. So I attribute that to being able to know what is helpful and what is not and what your body needs. They had the Fruit Thief. This one is flavored apple, and it's like a fruit roll-up kind of thing, but very limited ingredients. And let's see, I don't know if I can see them here. I would probably have to, ingredients: apples, apple juice, citrus fiber, and then there is natural apple flavor. So the natural apple flavor, I'm not exactly sure what that is, so that may be a little questionable, but overall this seemed like a really good, healthier type of candy or snack. There were only 4 grams of added sugar in this, so I really like that. I tried some and they were good. I did not try the apple flavor one. This one is Knobs. It's toothpaste tablets. I actually didn't even open it to look at it yet. It's a pretty cool box and a pretty cool and nice looking container. And it is sealed. I'm not going to quite open it, but they are just little pellets, and you just bite them and then you brush your teeth with them. And ingredients look pretty good overall. And so I like that. I'll probably be trying that. And there's some tea here. This one I may or may not be trying, although it doesn't look bad. Raspberry leaf, stinging nettle, alfalfa, spearmint, and then stevia leaf. So these are good just in general, but those ingredients together can be helpful, like for pregnant women. So I am not pregnant and not planning to become pregnant, but this would be a good tea for that. It's called Mama To Be tea. They had some of these Mama Chia squeezies. This one's mango coconut flavor. It is organic, non-GMO. And there's chia seeds in it, along with some of the other fruits and vegetables. So I haven't tried it, but I did get 2 of those. So we'll try to share that with my kids and myself just to give that a try. Some spelt flour, organic spelt flour from Stutzman Farms. So hoping to maybe try that. Maybe I'll use that in my sourdough. I might try that. And I did buy some more tea from Soda Farm. They are in Marysville. They're not far from me. I love her farm and I love what she produces. She also makes sodas. I did not buy any of that, but I did have some while I was there. But I bought the Release tea and the Clear tea. One is more of like a detox and one is more of a emotional release tea. And then some Foods Alive. These are sprouted crisps. They are delicious. I bought a herby one, tomato and herb, and then a cocoa coconut. They are both delicious. I had my daughter try one the other day. She was not a fan of the tomato herb, but she did really like the coconut. I like them both, just at different times. When I wasn't feeling so well and I ate the tomato one, didn't taste so great. I felt like I was going to maybe be nauseous, but that was at the time. Now, a few days later, tastes great. It's a nice tasty snack. Again, limited ingredients and all real food. So I love that. And we'll probably buy some more. So I got some other books and some magazines that came. And so magazines that have subscriptions, I got like a free copy, and might consider, you know, subscribing and getting some of those magazines that have good stories and good recommendations and things in them, all because you attended the session. You can get discounts. So man, I could probably talk for a while about this, but I've talked long enough. Great conference to go to. I would encourage you to go if you are, you know, holistic leaning, if you are Christian and that is something that resonates with you. It was a packed house for the whole thing. Tickets will probably sell out. It went from like 50 people one year to 700 the next year. So amazing experience. I would recommend it to you if that is something that interests you. Thank you for joining me today, and I will continue to share what I learned from these events in the future. I'll see you again next week.